According to the Bureau of Treasury, the Philippines has an outstanding debt of 12.89 trillion as of July 2022. According to macrotrends.net, the Philippines debt reached its all-time high in the past 10 years, reaching $98 billion of external debt. But you know, Philippines can always pay its debt, and here's why. It does not matter what the size of your debt is, it depends on your ability to pay. That is, will this country be able to recover enough and go back to its growth path? That is the more interesting one. And that will not happen unless we have better governance, Monsod said. Basically, it makes no difference how much debt you have, no. It will boils down to depending on our financial situation. Our country's financial capacity will determine. Here's the GDP of the Philippines from last 10 years. As you can see, no, our nation's GDP recovered from the pandemic and is now approaching its pre-pandemic level. The Philippines' GDP growth rate for 2021 was 5.70%, a 15.22% increase from 2020. I'm showing you the GDP because it is related to the indicator, no, on how will the Philippines be able to pay its debt. Many people were unaware of this. Yes, this is a big debt, no, pero there is a benchmark kung paano ito mababayaran. Hindi kasi ito tinuturo sa school. It is called the debt to GDP ratio. The debt to GDP ratio is the ratio between a country's government debt and its gross domestic product. A low debt to GDP ratio indicates that an economy produces goods and services sufficient to pay back debts without incurring further debt. The ideal debt to GDP is 77%, no? Treasury data showed, as of end June 2022, the country's debt to GDP ratio stood at 62.1%. Meaning, meron tayong 62 debt every 1 GDP. In comparison, Malaysia has 63.3%, Singapore has 131%, India 73.95%, Cambodia 38.7%, and South Korea 42.6%. As you can see, our country wasn't that bad. It sat fairly among our neighboring countries. Thus, Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno assured senators that the national debt remains within manageable levels. Yeah, it's sad na malaki utang natin pero is at a manageable level. Plus the fact that ang daming further development, especially infrastructure in our transportation like the Metro Manila Subway, MRT-7, MRT-4, North-South Railway na magkakos ng further increase in our economy. How? According to a 2014 report partnering with the National Economic Development Authority or NEDA, the country suffered 2.4 billion losses daily due to Metro Manila traffic, and it will become 5.4 billion a day in 2035. This is according to JICA Philippines Office Chief Representative Susumo Ito. Project in transportations like those will help our congested roads and it will cause faster transportation resulting to increase in production, connection, and logistics. In addition, the returns on transportation fees will be one of the sources of money to pay or decrease our debts for constructing it. So the Philippines cannot be able to pay its debt? That's not true.